It was just another night for these two cops until they made a fatal mistake. They thought they could intimidate an innocent black man. But what they didn't know, this man wasn't just anybody. And when he revealed who he truly was, their careers were over. This is the moment when power flipped, when justice was served right in the street. And the ending? You won't believe what happened next. A city where jazz notes dance with the ghosts of history and the Mississippi River whispers stories of resiliency. New Orleans is a place that deserves to be mentioned. In the peaceful streets of Trem, a district rich in African-American tradition, Judge Elias Marcus navigates his nocturnal trip home. The brilliance of the French Quarter goes away, and the streets return to their normal quietness. Judge Elias Marcus is a criminal court judge who is 45 years old. He was reared in Trem, where he observed injustices that were at the systemic level. His father, who was a lawyer focused on civil rights, presented him with a silver pocket watch that, with the inscription, "Time reveals truth," the bright intelligence that Elias, widower, is concealed by his placid attitude, and he uses his sadness to tutor younger people. Today, he issued a ruling that contradicted a prejudiced testimony from the police, and his gavel echoed a quiet revolt. Dale McCurdy, a veteran officer, is 54 years old and has a chip on his shoulder. His record is littered with complaints, but he is protected by the camaraderie that existed among his fellow officers. Jake Callahan, a rookie officer, is 23 years old and idealistic to the point of being susceptible. He is struggling with his conscience under the influence of Mac. As Elias is making his way to his daughter's piano recital in September, he gets a glimpse of a cruiser's flash. The storm is raging across the city. The taillight of his antique Cadillac flickers, which was a detail that he had overlooked. Mac's voice, which is tinged with disdain, insists that licenses and registrations be obtained. Elias's hands, which have become solid as a result of years spent on the bench, grasp the wheel as memories pour in, an arrest when he was a teenager, while his father's pocket watch was taken away and never returned. Jake is hovering, feeling uncomfortable, as Mac's illumination blinds him. Mac yells out, "Get out of the car slowly." Rain drenches Elias's suit as he complies with an order. "Think you own the street?" Despite the licensing, Mac sneers at the license. The rhythm of Elias's heartbeat is heavy, yet his voice is unyielding. "I am a judge. Please verify my credentials." He chuckles and says, "Nice costume." "You have been placed under arrest." The judicial emblem belonging to the criminal court, Division B, is discovered by Jake in the wallet. Sarge, he's the emblem glimmering like a ghost. Mac's complexion becomes pallid. The stare of Elias penetrates Mac. "It has been 1 month since I looked into your case of misbehavior, Officer McCurdy. Was it any kind of evidence fabrication?" The storm settles down. Mac's arrogance is shattered, and Jake takes a step back, at which point he has an epiphany. This is the judge who criticized his mentor. Elias reaches for his pocket watch, which is making a loud ticking sound. "Bring yourself to court on Monday." You two together, Mac faces the possibility of being suspended, while Jake, who has been transferred, has requested bias training. As the community awakens, Trem organizes demonstrations, and Elias's tale becomes viral. Over a cup of café au lait, he holds town hall meetings, where cops and villagers share their tales. Together with the district attorney, Elias launches Project Lantern, which necessitates the use of body cameras and training on unconscious prejudice. The tune of his daughter's Strange Fruit combines with the watch chime that his father is wearing during the rescheduled recital that his daughter is performing. It is true that time exposes the truth. A legacy of truth, ticking against injustice, presented in the form of the pocket watch. A reflection of the challenge that society faces. Storm and jazz is a combination of chaos and harmony. Lanterns placed on porches are Trem's response to the darkness, and they become a sign of collective alertness. A journal belonging to Elias's late wife is discovered, and it reveals that her ancestor was a liberated slave who testified against a brutal overseer. This is a parallel to Elias's testimony in the courtroom. In his keynote address at the National Judicial Conference, he urges, "Gavels as bridges, not barriers." The diary serves as the inspiration for his speech. In Trem, where shadows once hid pain, lanterns now glow, each flame a testament to a judge who turned the key of justice, not just in courtrooms, but in hearts. In the courthouse, there was an unusually high level of anxiety. The marble stairs were crowded with reporters, and their cameras were focused on the entrances of the building. Within the building, the air was dense with the aroma of ancient paper and wood that had been polished. Elias Marcus, the judge, adjusted his robes while tucking his father's pocket watch into the pocket of his vest. The continuous clicking of the watch served as a constant reminder of the passage of time. The insignia that was on Officer Dale Macready's uniform was removed, and he sat rigidly at the defense table. Jake Callahan, who was standing next to him, was fidgeting, and his eyes were wandering between the judge and the jury box. There were citizens of Trem, activists, and uniformed cops present in the gallery, and they were all paying careful attention. It was unnecessary for him to use a script. The space was filled by his voice, which was low and measured. The purpose of this court is not to pass judgment on a guy. In this location, a system will be analyzed. A system that gave Officer Macready the opportunity to feel, even for a few moments, that he had the authority to treat me, or any other man, as less than human simply because to the color of his skin. A muttering could be heard across the throng. The muscles in Mac's jaw tightened. Prior to anybody else, Officer Jake Callahan took the stand. He testified, when under testimony, that Mac had a history of engaging in racial profiling, as well as his own hesitation to speak out. Despite the fact that his voice was shaking, he said, "I didn't want to be the one who broke the blue wall, but that night I saw what happens when we stay silent." The footage from the dash cam showed Mac's sneer and the manner in which he disregarded Elias' credentials. Elias, who was soaked in rain, simply remarked, "Meet me in court Monday." The courtroom reacted with a cry of surprise. There was never a time when Elias raised his voice. He did nothing more than lay forth the facts, his words acting as a knife used to dissect prejudice. There was a finding of misbehavior against Mac, and he was removed from his badge. However, Elias was not finished. Body cameras for every cop, mandated bias training, and community oversight boards were among the initiatives that Elias implemented, which extended from New Orleans to Baton Rouge and then around the country. In seminars, police officers who had previously refused were now listening to Trem elders recount their experiences during the Jim Crow era, including being stopped for driving while black. After resigning from the police service, Jake joined a charity organization that assists young people who are in danger. In the evening, he went to Elias's office while carrying a badge that had been tarnished. As he spoke, he said, "I do not yet deserve this, but someday I'll earn it back." Mac, who was humiliated, disappeared until a blurry picture appeared on the internet. In Mississippi, he was working as a security guard at a truck stop, and his face was haggard, and his swagger was disappeared. From the inside of the watch's case, Lena, Elias's daughter, found an engraving that read, "For Elijah, who spoke truth to power." F. 1865, Frederick Marcus, Elias's great-great-grandfather, was a freedman who testified against a plantation overseer. According to the findings of the research in question, a pattern of events had been repeated. After a year had passed, Trem held its very first Night of Lanterns. There were paper lanterns all over the streets, and each one of them had the name of a person who had been injured by injustice. The sound of jazz trumpets were mournful and triumphant at the same time. As Lena stepped next to Elias on the improvised stage, Elias stood there. A speech was not delivered by him. Instead, he took out the watch that belonged to his father, raised it to his ear, and let the applause of the audience to fill the night. The city of New Orleans recalled, and in the flicker of 1,000 lanterns, justice is not just delivered from a bench. There are occasions when it is retrieved from a pocket by a guy who refuses to kneel, often when it is raining. As Lena Marcus surveyed the audience, she made adjustments to her graduation hat, causing the tassel to bounce up and down. Elias, her father, was sitting there with a subtle sense of pride. He was in the first row, his silvering hair reflecting the sunshine. The ancient pocket watch shone brightly as it sat on his lap. Just like her grandpa, she had decided to pursue a career in civil rights law. However, since that stormy night in Trem, the globe has undergone a transformation. Body cameras were now required by federal law. There were teeth in the community monitoring boards. Then, again, her mobile device made a buzzing sound. In the event of breaking news, Mississippi Sheriff's deputies acquitted in fatal traffic stop video shows victim compliant on the screen. The face of the sheriff who was being charged appeared. This is Dale McCready. The grip that Lena had on her diploma became more firm. Despite the fact that the town was a picture-perfect representation of Southern charm, with white-columned courthouses and magnolia trees, Lena had a sense of unease the instant she entered the pub. Conversations were kept quiet. She was followed by eyes. Coffee was being consumed by a grizzled guy who was dressed in a sheriff's outfit at the counter. "It's Mac." And he glanced up. There was a momentary flash of recognition which subsided into a smirk. "All right, I'll acquit myself." The child of the judge, with a quiet voice, Lena slipped into the seat next to him from the back. "A member of the Johnson family is here today." Unarmed, their kid was not armed. Mac did not allow his smile to reach his eyes. "And I was just going about my work, surprising how that turns out." She took out her phone and played the tape from the dashboard camera. Terrell Johnson, who is 19 years old, is pleading with his hands up. "You're under arrest." The earlier version of Mac's voice, but just as poisonous. The sound of a gunshot. Lena drew closer to the conversation. "The previous time, you were not taken into consideration." This time, not at all. Mac's cup of coffee shook violently. Rather than only arguing about the incident, Lena's strategy consisted of putting the system on trial by subpoenaing documents of Mac's background, including his reinstatement after the New Orleans massacre. "I feared for my life," Mac defended himself by saying. In spite of this, Lena was able to rely on an unexpected witness, Jake Callahan, who is now an advocate for police reform, testified about Mac's past. In a twist, Lena revealed the evidence that Frederick Marcus had given in 1865, which was the exact words that were used against a racist supervisor. As she addressed the jury, she said, "History is not simply repeating itself, it's screaming at us to wake up." Protesters and supporters engaged in violent conflict outside of the courtroom. Nevertheless, Lena saw an old black lady who was silently crying. "This is Terrell's granny." An old rusty lamp was the gift that she gave to Lena. "For your collection," she murmured at the same time. While standing on his porch, Elias watched as Lena placed the Mississippi lamp next to the others, which now numbered in the hundreds and came from all across the nation. Each lantern represented a different case that she had fought. "You know," Elias continued as he wound the watch that belonged to his father, "Frederick didn't not simply testify. He established a high school. It was important to teach people to read, so that they could fight their own fights." I saw Lena grin. "I'm not opening a school, Dad." "No," he agreed with the statement. "You're building something bigger, The Marcus Justice Initiative was established the next morning, and it is a network of attorneys, police officers, and activists that provides training to communities on how to watch the police, contest racism, and fight for change. The 10th annual Night of Lanterns included Lena, standing in the spot where her father had previously stood. Everyone in the throng, including blacks, whites, law enforcement agents, and former criminals, was carrying lights. After, a sound disrupted the hum, and it was a single trumpet playing the song, Strange Fruit, Who is the Musician? An instrument that had been repurposed as a mute was being played by Jake Callahan, who was wearing his police badge. Lena lifted her lamp to a high position.